And when I was standing there and the judge said 30 years, and all I could think in my head was, that's longer than I've been alive. I'm going to die. But those last 10 years, I wrote programming, I wrote 2 books, I got 2 associate's degrees, I got almost all the way through my bachelor's using the tablets.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and now in a master's program. So having those resources on for someone who's doing 10 years, let them start practicing those behaviors now. Let them listen to those podcasts now. Let them get in touch with those resources now. Build the relationship, because if you have dialogue and you have relationships, then you're successful.
Hi, my name is Teresa Hodge. I'm the president and CEO of Mission Launch, and we're here for another episode of Come Home Ready. I want to introduce you to Kim Thomas.
Hi, Kim Thomas. I am justice impacted. I came home 23 months and a week ago after doing a 30-year sentence at the Perryville prison.
I remember the first time you said to me 30 years, and I did 70 months.
Yeah.
And when you said 30 years, it took my breath away for a little while.
Did mine too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. I was 24 when I got sentenced. And when I was standing there and the judge said 30 years, and all I could think in my head was, that's longer than I've been alive. I'm going to die. And I didn't, obviously, but it is that devastation feeling. I mean, the internet was literally a year old.
So what year was this?
91.
Yeah.
It was pre 9/11, pre OJ's slow speed chase. It was pre all of that. And I was living in 96 square feet with no access to the world.
How many square feet?
96.
96.
It's 96 square feet that you share. It's an 8 by 12.
Well, first, let me just say welcome home.
Thank you.
You know, you still haven't been home long enough for us not to say that.
Oh, yeah. I pinch myself every day because sometimes it's surreal. And as I was getting ready to come home, everybody who had done time and was still there were like, you're not going to make it. It's going to be too overwhelming. You have no idea what you're walking out to. It's complete chaos and you're going to fail. And I sat there for a minute and I could have really let that beat me up. And I sat down and I said, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go be a tourist in a foreign country. So that's the mindset I put on, because I didn't know the language. I didn't know the food, and I certainly didn't know where anything was. So I chose to say, I'm going to be a tourist. And so when I got out, that was my line. I'm new here. I apologize. I don't know where that's at. I'm new here. And it was that ease that allowed me to not walk out with shame and not walk out with the giant scarlet letter. Well, until you start, applying for jobs and looking to get a house.
But you did what you had to do.
Yes.
I guess in the tech space, they would say you gamified your reentry.
I did. And you gamify yourself when you go in to incarceration. And I think we had talked briefly about this. Prison is broken up in 2/3. The first third of your time, I don't care if it's a year or 30, you're an idiot. I'm sorry, but you are, because you cannot wrap your brain around this as your new reality. And in the middle third, you start figuring out, okay, that didn't work. I need to do something. But you can't quite figure out what that is. So that's the figure out phase. And then in the last third, you start doing those things you thought about to the best of your ability. Unfortunately for me, each of those thirds was 10 years. So I was an idiot for 10 years. It took me 10 years to figure it out. But those last 10 years, I wrote programming. I wrote 2 books. I got 2 associate's degrees. I got almost all the way through my bachelor's using the tablets for the bachelor's. I finished my bachelor's in March of 22.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and now in a master's program. So
it sounds like you did 30 years of time in 10 years.
Yes, 10 year chunks. Yeah. They were just consecutive.
Yeah.
And you adapt. You do. You learn to maneuver. And we got tablets the week the world caught on fire from COVID. So Securus came in and they kept saying, oh, they're coming. And it took longer than I wanted it to, because I wanted to figure it out. And they came in and we got up and we went out and got in line, and the on-site client manager was out at the kiosks and she handed me my tablet, and I looked at it and I looked at her and I went, I've been here since 91. I have no idea. This is a doorstop. I have no idea how to use this. And her reply was, 91? That's when I graduated high school. I'm like, yay for you, but I really don't know how to use this. Okay. And she pulled me off to the side and spent about 30 minutes, showed me what the apps meant, showed me how to swipe, because we had rotary phones when I mean, that's how long ago it was. And she sat down and she says, play with it. Here's the little booklet. If you break it, I'll be back tomorrow. And all I could think of in my head is, yeah, everybody says they're coming back tomorrow, but they don't. And so I went back to my little, and now that I was in a dorm, I only have 30 square feet because it's 6 by 5. And I'm sitting on my bunk and I'm scrolling through the tablet and I'm curious and I'm punching the buttons and I'm seeing if I can break it. I really am. I'll be honest.
Was that your intention to break it?
My intention was to make it break, yes. Because then I could tell her if she did show up, I told you I was going to break it. I didn't break it. I actually figured a lot of stuff out. And the next morning when the yard opened, I went out to the kiosk and I was with my tablet and I was figuring out how to use that. And then I started answering questions of people who were coming up. And these are people who've been locked up maybe a year or 2 years. And all I can think in my head is, how am I the one helping them? I've had it for 18 hours. How am I the person helping them? Well, for the next 3 days, I was the one out at the kiosk. And by the way, Laura did come back, our OCM, and she did help me more. And I was out at the kiosk every day. Every time the yard was open, I was out there. I was helping people. I was running around the building and helping people. And on the 4th day, they called me up to administration. And we know nobody likes that.
Your name called out.
Yeah.
You're like, oh Lord, what did I do?
It's never a good thing. You know, it hasn't been in my experience. And I walk up and they're like, you have been at the kiosk every day for 3 days. Hey, if I hacked it accidentally, I'm sorry. I'm gonna plead ignorance right now because I have been here since 91 and it was an accident. And she's like, no, the CO4, the counselor.
CO like, being a correctional officer.
Correctional officer 4, yeah. She's like, no, you're not in trouble. Do you want this to be your job? Okay.
So after 28 years in prison?
Yes.
They made you in charge of the technology,
yeah. I was the one showing everybody else how to use the tablets. And I like to tell it, and they would get frustrated if it didn't do like an iPad or whatever, and I would legitimately tell them, look, I don't know what you expected it to do. I came in with the mindset of I didn't know what it could do, so everything it did do was amazing. I didn't think it needed to be like anything else. It's like the first time you eat ice cream. There's no comparison for you. And I didn't have anything to compare it to. So I had that benefit. And so I was able to look at all its ability rather than disabilities. And I used it all the time. And I was a tablet clerk up until my last 6 months.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I'm still connected to that OCM to this day. She is still in my life.
OCM is?
On-site client manager, the one who actually handed me the Miss 1991. Yeah.
Miss 1991, right. Yeah. Who works for
Securus.
Does she still?
She still works for Securus.
Wonderful.
And does go lives.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
She'll be there tonight.
Wonderful. And so there tonight, since you brought that up, is at the hackathon that we're having here in Phoenix, where you're going to be presenting as well.
Yes.
Which is really exciting. I don't know, like, your story is so interesting. Like, we can go down the whole tablet.
Yeah.
But you said something that reminded me of my own journey, and that was, I don't know if I was an idiot for a third of my time, for the record. So I'm not sure if I like your formula. Because I was starting to calculate. On average, you know, maybe I didn't have enough time.
Yeah,
You know,
maybe.
it was enough, trust me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember I couldn't get my mind around the time.
Right.
And I remember saying to a woman who had been in prison for 13 years, I was just like, how do you do this? This isn't real.
Right.
And she got really close to my face. I mean, she was a friend, but she got close to my face and she said, it is real.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing it for 13 years.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me it's not.
Right.
And it made me go back to my bunk and just sit with that for just a second. Her point to me was, this is life. You may not want to be here,
Right.
but it's life.
Yes.
And you're not going to discount my 13 years.
Correct.
And I think it was that conversation that like made me
Flips the switch. Yep.
So I stopped being an idiot after that conversation.
Yeah.
And stopped, you know, feeling sorry for myself and said,
Right.
okay, how are you going to do this time?
Yeah.
You know, and
You have to choose.
I moved into that space. So
Yeah.
it was when you told that it reminded me of
For sure.
that conversation.
Because we would have officers or staff members, you know, well, in the real world. And it was almost in my middle when I was figuring out what I was going to do. My response would be, this is a fantasy? Because this doesn't get any more real than what I'm doing right now. And there is no amount of planning, because I'm a planner. I am meticulous, and I am 100% a rule follower to this day. And if you ever ride with me in a vehicle, know that I am stopping a full stop at every stop sign. I use my turn signal in a parking lot.
I love it.
I don't jaywalk. I don't speed. If it says speed limit, not speed suggestion, I will stay in the right lane, put my head down, and do the speed limit. I did not even tear the tags off my mattress. Okay? I follow the rules.
I love this, for the record.
Because I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
Because when you have lost, I have been in more than I have been out. And the crazy part is, prison wasn't the hardest thing I ever had to deal with in my life. But what I gained from prison, from my childhood, from all the people who weren't there, I could be a family of one. I am smart, I am resourceful, and I was able to find resources, like through Arouet. Best people on the planet, in my opinion. They have talked me off a ledge when I didn't know how I was going to do anything. And I work there now, and I have become their engagement coordinator. And that was the hill I was going to stand on, was the word engagement.
Okay, wonderful. So you talked about Arouet, and I know that maybe some of the people in Arizona may know that. But for people who might be watching this, and they're not in Arizona,
right?
They might be in Maryland.
All right.
They're going to be looking for their version of an Arouet.
Well, we're unique,
Yeah.
but you can contact us. We'll figure it out. So Arouet is a 501c3 nonprofit. We exclusively help justice-impacted women, help them with workforce development and financial literacy, mentorship, which is a big deal, having someone who's walked in your shoes. We also teach inside the Perryville prison as part of the Second Chance program. We are about to start a program for the higher custody levels where they don't have very many programming opportunities. And we just recently began work on a new program called the Case Academy, which is career assessment and skill enhancement, where we are going to be partnering for technology like e-commerce and IT security and all of those things to help train our women to come out and get jobs.
I can't tell you how much I love the fact that you're leaning into technology.
Absolutely.
You know, and at the thought that you won in 1991, I'm going to now remember 1991 because you say because you told me about Miss 1991.
Absolutely, you'll meet her tonight.
So I love the fact that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Now I make this statement, and I don't know, because it's going to be interesting. Your position, which is we have this problem called mass incarceration.
Yeah.
But reentry is hyperlocal.
It is.
Good. I'm glad we agree with that.
It is.
So why do you agree with that?
I agree with that because reentry starts the day you go in.
Mm-hmm.
And where you are that entire time is here. So a lot of people think when you're incarcerated, you're nowhere. And if you look at that word nowhere and you put one space between two letters, it tells you are now here. When we walk out, we're walking out here. If you don't know where to go, you don't know who to ask, if you're too proud to ask, that's why it's local. Local because it starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with me. I had to have the mindset of, here I am with a tourist in this foreign country. And my first day, I only wanted to do 3 things. I wanted to eat meat on a bone. I wanted to walk on grass in my bare feet. And I wanted to immerse myself in water. And so.
Did you do all 3 of those?
I did all 3 of them in the first 12 hours.
Hopefully you weren't eating while immersing yourself in water.
No.
Because I do want to ask you about what did you eat? Because that is like,
yeah.
I think everybody remembers.
Barbecue ribs and mashed potatoes and corn on the cob and fruit and chocolate cake and Christmas candy, because I got out in November and my friends for my welcome party decorated their entire house, even though it was only November 3rd, as Christmas, and I actually walked out in a Santa hat.
Good for you.
Yeah, because it was better than Christmas.
Well, I guess we coordinated our red and green.
We did.
We got a little Christmas theme
Best
going on here.
Best holiday ever.
I love Christmas too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. So you told me about your first meal.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, when you think of come home ready,
mm-hmm. what is necessary or what's needed for a person to come home ready? And maybe what does ready even mean? Offense, but you're never ready. Mm-hmm. You think you are. I thought I was. Mm-hmm. I walked out with 2 full composition books of my plan. And none of it happened mm-hmm. in the way I had it ordered. Mm-hmm. But it turned out way more beautiful. It come home ready means being open to being the person who is standing up in a hammock while a fire hose is pointed at you mm-hmm. and being able to pivot and move. First of all, I love all your metaphors. So let's just start with that. You know, they're so visual. Now I gotta imagine myself in a hammock with a fire hose. But yeah, okay. But I get. Are you saying it's difficult? It is more than difficult. Yeah. And if you do not have support, if you do not have resources, and I think what we need now, especially in Arizona, is getting those resources on those tablets so that the connection can start prior to. Mm-hmm. Because if you wait until those last 2 months at Second Chance to maybe get connected to a resource. Oh, God. So imagine this. I did 29 years, 11 months with nothing. And in the last 2 months, you're going to cram it all down my throat and tell me, good luck. It should start at the beginning. Absolutely. And having those resources on for someone who's doing 10 years, let them start practicing those behaviors now. Let them listen to those podcasts now. Let them get in touch with those resources now. Build the relationship, because if you have dialogue and you have relationships, then you're successful. Absolutely. And the tablets today are also being used to help people with their higher education and so forth. And we are able to communicate with our participants mm-hmm. from Arouet once they hit Second Chance Center. Really excited to start getting in touch with people sooner, because the 3 of us who go into Perryville to teach are all impacted. And so, and by impacted, just so that I want to make sure. Okay, just want to make sure that justice impacted. We use jargon. Yeah, we do. We use slang. So I just want to make sure that anyone who's listening, they understand that when we say justice impacted, we're saying people who have an arrest or conviction record. Mm-hmm. Involuntary handcuffs is mm-hmm. what I like to say. Okay, there you go. That too. Yeah, too. So the 3 of us who are the leads on these programmings are all formerly incarcerated. Mm-hmm. We have multiple offenders, repeat offenders, mm-hmm. And a very long sentence. Mm-hmm. So we walk in and we have now obliterated every excuse for everybody who walks into our class of how hard it is. Mm-hmm. I always say you can't become what you don't see. Right. And so you walking in, we walk in. The 3 of you have to give inspiration. Yep. Have to give hope. Yes. Have to allow women to think, oh, even if they don't say it in that moment, mm-hmm. in their quiet time, when they're mm-hmm. laying on their bunk, it gives them an opportunity to remember the conversation or to remember something that was said. Absolutely. Because then they're like, okay, if she can, You know, if you didn't never had a role model, if you never had a hero, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what's possible.
Yeah.
But when someone can show you what's possible, then you start believing in yourself too. And that's what we do when we go in there. We believe in them long enough so they can believe in themselves.
I love that. I want you to just take a minute, and if you can look into the camera and talk to the women, not only in Perryville, but the women and men, quite frankly, who might be listening to this. And what message would you give them?
It's possible. It is magical. It is hard. And if you will reach out for help and not let pride and you're thinking that you can do it all by yourself, because then people will think you're stupid, reach out, ask for help, find a resource, find anybody. We can't do it alone. None of us are islands. But my worst day out here, better than my best day in there. You can have that too. You just got to want it more than you want anything else. You've got to say to yourself, I will do whatever it takes to come home and stay home.
Well, when I think of Come Home Ready, and when I think of what's possible, you're what's possible, I'm what's possible.
Yeah.
And what we have to do is make sure we create other opportunities.
Absolutely.
For other people.
Absolutely. We need them to come home and stay home.
That's right. I'm so happy that we've met, and we're going to continue this party over the next several days, and then continue it for more time to come.
Oh, absolutely. This is just the beginning.
You got it.